So, you want a naturally aspirated V12 sitting behind you for less than $1 million. Well, join the club. You're a bit late. McLaren, of course, had the F1, but it was their first and last V12 powered road car, creating, oh, I don't know, a bit of a demand. Maybe you're thinking, hey, the Enzo's kind of old, same with the LaFerrari, let me find one of those. Try again. This 2025 Lamborghini Revuelto here in front of me is the only naturally aspirated mid-engine supercar you can buy new today for under $1 million. I feel like I've been robbed of a crucial enthusiast, and more importantly, automotive journalist, reviewer, YouTuber, whatever you want to call me, experience by driving this as my first V12 Lamborghini experience. I've never driven a V12 Lamborghini before. Yesterday was my first time driving it, and I got footage of that experience, so I'm going to throw that in later in the video. But we left that parking lot in electric only mode, so it's a silent experience. I think that's a great thing if you just want to leave the neighborhood and whatnot, but we're up here in the canyons, and it takes a little bit of work for me to get the V12 fired up. You know, if I was in a Countach, there she is, or a Mercy, or Diablo, or an Aventador, it would have already made its presence known. Like, before you even set off, it's, okay, this is an event. First impressions, driving this, it doesn't really feel like too much of an event, just from the driver's seat. But once the engine fires up, everything changes, and that's what we're here for. But you do have to go into, at bare minimum, Strada to get the engine to fire up. So that's your just basic street mode. And then below that is Cheetah, I believe is how you pronounce that, City. And that's EV only mode. So, as you guys probably know by now, the Revuelto is a plug-in hybrid, hence the EV only mode. So, there's 3 electric motors. Just to get you guys up to speed, if you haven't watched any Revuelto videos so far, it's got 2 electric motors in the front, 1 for each front wheel, and then 1 in the back that's integrated into the 8-speed dual-clutch transmission that I'm constantly interacting with right now. And then that entire system works alongside that V12, although the first thing you notice driving this car is it does not feel like that V12 needs any help. It makes, I believe, about 814 horsepower and just over 500 pound-feet of torque without the electric motors. Ten piston carbon ceramics up front. Total output, 1,001 horsepower. You can attack these corners so incredibly quickly. The electric motors in the front, yeah, of course, make the car all-wheel drive. All these V12 Lamborghinis, beginning, I believe, with the Diablo VT, viscous traction, if I'm not mistaken. Ever since then, all V12 mid-engine Lamborghinis have been all-wheel drive, so it just makes sense to integrate the hybrid system like this, and then the V12 is sending torque directly to the rear end with a electromechanical limited slip differential. So what you feel with that is just an incredible urgency to get out of corners. It is insane how quickly you can get on, how early you can get on throttle coming out of a corner, and the car just sticks. And in some corners, it feels as if the front end is like pulling for the first moment, and then the rear end begins to get traction as you unwind the steering wheel. Oh, this is a tunnel. Oh my God. There's no way I can look at you guys right now. This car, not only is it taking all these bumps incredibly well, I've got the suspension in soft right now. but the grip is ridiculous. And the speed you can carry, you know, it's just to the point where you can use all of the power on a road like this. On any smaller of a road, a tighter road, you won't be able to go full throttle, but we have to do launch control. Let's do launch control. Left foot on the brake, hold the flag on the steering wheel, thrust mode possible. 5 minutes driving this car, doing a few launches, my neck muscles are gonna be gigantic. Zero drama too. So Corsa performance, ESC off. Full attack mode, we've got a little bit more space here. We've got half a battery left. The great thing is you don't have to pay attention to any of that. I haven't plugged this thing in 48 hours and the battery goes up and down. It deploys when it needs to. It gives performance when it needs to. Although, when you're in the city, you do, if you want to go EV only and save that fuel, then you have to just hit the EV button on the steering wheel here. 6,000 RPM. It becomes a completely different animal when you put it in Corsa with all systems off. Oh my God. It's impossible to hit 9,500 RPM manually shifting at full throttle. You don't have enough time. I can't look down. But that's the gift here, is 9,500 RPM out of a naturally aspirated engine. Doesn't even matter the engine, just a naturally aspirated engine that revs higher than a GT3 RS. And the brake pedal, there is zero give on the top of the brake pedal. It's touching a millimeter, and you got so much braking force. The rear view mirror, all I'm seeing is the wing just very subtly going up and down. A little bit. And the gearbox, so, oh my. See that? It's still got a little bit of a kick. The only comparison I have as far as a Lamborghini single clutch would be a Gallardo. Like I said, I've never driven an Aventador or a Mercy, but at lower speeds, half throttle, mid throttle, it's very composed. So those electric motors will feel torque in between shifts. So it kind of minimizes that kick, but there you guys saw in Corsa full throttle, top of the rev band, it still just like punches you in the seat. There's just zero laps in torque. The electric motors are still putting down enough torque to keep it moving and to keep it from upsetting the car, and you can just kind of change gears whenever you want. Remarkably easy to drive. That's what I'm getting at. Cool down for a second. In addition to that, the torque is something you don't have to wait for. So traditionally a big V12 would be, 2,500 RPM, no torque, but there you go. And it builds and it builds so gradually. Light steering. Steering's laser precise. And up here, it feels like a lot of the assist at speed actually goes away. All the little vibrations and imperfections in the road come through the steering. I was afraid it was gonna be a little bit too neutered and numb. No, I feel like I'm strapped, bolted, welded to the chassis. And that just comes, of course, naturally with a carbon fiber tub. Yeah, when you've got the steering wound close to center, then you can it feels very rear bias in that scenario. But if you're in a tighter corner, it feels like the front end's pulling the car. It's such a weird feeling. It definitely feels closer to an Audi RS3, like a front wheel drive based all wheel drive system in those very, very tight corners. So weird, very alien. This might be the fastest car I've ever driven, the quickest car I've ever driven. Hands down, a dual clutch combined with 1,000 horsepower. Yes, it weighs over 4,200 pounds, but I'm trying to think of a scenario in which I kind of felt that weight. It has rear steer, which helps a ton in the corners, creating a nimble experience, but just I'm not really, like, I never considered myself a Lamborghini guy, but if there is a Lamborghini to convince you that these cars are more than just an annoying headache around town, just to be flashy and to kind of show up in a parking lot and put the doors up, this is the car, because it is the most complete supercar I've ever driven. Nobody asked for the Revuelto to be good at everything. Ask a Countach owner if waiting half an hour for the engine and gearbox to warm up is worth the payoff. They'll all give you the same answer. So, as someone who, up until today, had never driven a mid-engine vehicle powered by a V12, I want to know if, during those same city blocks, the Revuelto's ease of use is enough to make me feel better about the added weight and complexity. There are some crazy people out there who would try to daily drive a mid-engine V12 Lamborghini. Now I'm just patiently waiting for the gas engine to start up. It should know what's best for me. That's what I'm assuming the Revuelto is gonna do. It should figure life around me out. Visibility is actually not that bad at all. Oh yeah, the signals are on the steering wheel. We're gonna try to change drive modes here. There we go. Strada. Only E mode is possible while engine warming up. We started out with 100%, or very close to, in the battery, and now I'm at 50%, and I've gone around the block. So the E mode is just get out of your neighborhood and get out of your driveway. It's more, you know what it is? It's more you pick which neighbor you want to piss off. That's really what you want to do, especially if you're leaving early in the morning. It's actually incredibly easy to drive. Visibility, everything's super easy. Everything's so quiet. Here on the freeway, 2,000 RPM, 8th gear, 73 miles an hour. I wouldn't even know the engine's on. There's a slight whirring, but it's like you do have that incredibly smooth, buttery smooth electric torque that comes on. A lot of people think that you're going to be automatically a dick if you drive a car like this. I promise, you guys, same old Marcus, I haven't changed. Not yet, at least. Okay, so on the key fob here, hold it down, boom, frunk is popped. And unlike the Lotus Emira, there is real storage here. Going to pick up the car this morning, I was not convinced that I was going to be able to fit my Pelican case in here. Not the largest case, but also not the smallest either. So easy, that's easy. And that is with all of the OEM Lamborghini accessories in here. That's not something I would have expected to see in a Lamborghini 15 years ago. You've got a cigarette lighter there. And then I guess, what is this? That is your charging port. So you do actually have to have the frunk open if you want to charge this. Of course, this is not gonna DC fast charge. The battery is nowhere big enough to justify that, but it is kind of insane how light this carbon fiber piece is here. It's very Lamborghini. It feels incredibly delicate. So you might think daily driving a Revuelto is an insane concept. 15, 20 years ago, V12 Lamborghinis were not meant to do this. They were clunky, they had single clutch gearboxes, things like that. And yeah, the Revuelto, even on that short drive so far, not once did I forget I was driving a Revuelto. There were so many things happening on the steering wheel. Trying to find menus is a little bit much, even just something as simple as the turn signals, getting used to that. But everything else, as far as the functioning of the car, is amazing. It's incredibly smooth. For example, radar cruise control. The Lotus Emira I just got out of a couple days ago, they just added radar cruise control for 2026. The one I was driving did not have that. This is one of the best radar cruise control systems I've used. Not only that, you might expect a supercar with massive wide tires in the front to kind of be darting around on the freeway a little bit due to, well, the alignment No, one-handed driving is very easy, and for the most part, the car is fairly quiet. It's stiff. I did not take it out of the soft damper settings, and even then, in combination with these seats, which don't have lumbar adjustment, so it's interesting to see which options Lamborghini has decided to fit. So with this new engine setup, the transmission, basically they've flipped the engine 180 degrees. So the transmission is behind the engine with that E-motor integrated with the 8-speed gearbox, right? So because of that, it's allowed Lamborghini to open up storage space behind the front seats. In other words, Lamborghini has made their previously compromised supercar more usable in almost every daily scenario on the street, just as a byproduct of using all the latest tech in the pursuit of performance. That's a win-win, and those don't happen very often. So I think that's something we should celebrate. Big gauge cluster right in the center. Everything in here is exactly as you'd expect from a Lamborghini, just weird shapes. Alcantara everywhere, leather. This one has like an extended leather pack. It's absolutely insane. A ton of carbon, great place to be. I might not want to road trip this car. This is not a grand tourer, but it's also not as hardcore and uncomfortable to drive on the street as something like a GT3 RS. And then here is a display that looks like Corsa, but with native maps in the center. Now, this car is not perfect. So like many of you, I use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, and this car has that, a wireless version of that. It's great, it works well for the most part. You do have to sometimes dig through the menus to reconnect your phone. I've had that experience a couple times, but my biggest gripe with this car is, yeah, it's great. You can have native maps in here, and you can use voice control, but only with your phone integrated maps, your Google Maps. So if you're with the standard navigation and we go here on the center screen, I can't use voice controls. Now, why is that a problem? That's a problem because if I put the car in drive, as if I'm about to drive somewhere, and then we hit search here, boom, cannot do it. Function not available when vehicle is moving. We have to be stopped, and there's no voice control option. So if you want to use native maps and put the screen here, you can do that, but you can't use voice control. And if you want to use voice control, you can put your Apple Maps or Android Auto map here, Google Maps, but then it will not display up here. This engine, it sounds amazing. Don't get me wrong. It feels like it's connected to my spine and it sounds great. You want to rev it out. It screams, but I think the straight piped Ford/Cosworth V12 in the V12 Vantage DB7 I drove actually sounded better than the Revuelto. How quick it is. It's crazy. It's so insane. Gearbox is very, very quick to respond. I didn't even mention it until now because it does exactly what you want it to do almost before you think about it. And if you leave it in auto, it's incredibly smart in the way it shifts on the freeway. Even in the lower drive modes, you punch it, downshifts happen quickly. It's happy to do a lot of things. There's still like mechanical gearbox noises that occasionally happen if you leave the transmission in automatic and you're coming up to a light, let's say. You'll hear that kind of clunk and like weird little ticking and stuff like that at low speeds, which I was not expecting. I just assumed that this car was gonna be so refined compared to the older single clutch cars, and it is, but not 100%. All right, I have not tried the brakes yet. Let's do that. It's just a dirty car, a dirty engine, surrounded by a facade of refinement and modern cleanliness, PC culture. It's a bit filtered. But if that's what it takes to keep these engines around, I'm on board. If the softer edges mean more people drive and enjoy their Lamborghinis more often, to me that's worth the trade-off. Even at $819,000 USD as spec'd, it might be worth that too. If you want something under $1 million with a V12, brand new in 2025, what else do you have? You have a Ferrari 12-cylinder. That's gotta be fun. I have not driven one of those yet. You have, of course, the Puro Sangue if you want an SUV. Ferrari doesn't want me calling it that. Or you have the Aston Martin Vanquish, which of course has boost. It's not naturally aspirated. So the further down the funnel, the purest funnel you go, the more difficult it is to find an experience like this. And I think that's the main reason Lamborghini can get away with charging $819,000 for this car. So if Lamborghini can just continue doing this going forward, I am so here for it. 9,500 RPM, regardless of the price, is something I think we can all get excited about. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you soon.